Hi, it's Jack here again from Qubicle TV. We are here today for another tutorial video, and for me this is probably the most important thing to consider when manufacturing solid surface, and that is the bonding / gluing of a solid surface joint. So let's get to it. First step, very easy, very basic, and that is just a bit of masking tape down the middle of your work surface. This just avoids the material from sticking to your work surface once the glue is dry. Once that step is done, we will move on to the blocks. So for example, what we've got here is some MDF blocks, and we're just going to glue them onto each side of the joint. So we've got 3 blocks on either side, like I say, a bit of MDF. You can even use offcuts of the material if that helps. Glue gun, hot melts, bond them on and just wait for them to dry. Right, so now you've got your blocks on, the next step, very easy, just clean the middle of the joint with some alcohol. So a bit of alcohol, bit of a rag, and just wipe down the middle. If you're wondering why we put the blocks on before we clean the joint, this is just in case any bits of hot melt tend to stick in the middle sometimes. It's just to avoid that really, so we're going to have the cleanest joint possible when it comes to bonding it up. Right, so now you've got your blocks on, you've got your masking tape, and you've got a nice clean joint in the middle. Next step is the adhesive. Now, always remember with the adhesive, there is matching colours for every single one of the solid surface colours. So when it comes to fabricating it, if you're going to try this yourself, make sure you've got the correct adhesive. We've got the correct adhesive, we're putting a bit in. Now, I'm just going to pause the video here for a second. One thing that is most important at this step is we need a tight joint. It's always important to remember that it's an adhesive, it's not a filler. So if you're using it as a filler and you're not clamping it together with a really tight joint, you're going to have a dirty line, and it doesn't look fantastic. It looks awful, to be honest with you. So it's very important to make sure you've got them blocks on ready for clamping for a nice tight joint. So let's just clamp it together. So now you've got your clamp together, you're going to give it about an hour to dry. Now, I mean, more often than not, it is faster than an hour. It all depends on the area you're in. So if it's a little bit warmer in the area, then obviously it's going to be a bit quicker. And if it's a little bit cooler, then it may take longer. But more often than not, an hour is more than ideal, and your adhesive should be dry. So now the adhesive's dry, the next step is you're going to take your blocks off. So we tend to use a chisel. I mean, you can use a hammer just to quickly knock them off, or the back of the chisel, and just get a little bit of that glue off. Now, it's not an issue if you don't get it all off, because the sander should get the little bits off. So the sander we tend to use, all our materials are sanded with a Festool Rotex. Now, it's a fantastic sander and it's going to make your job so much easier. Obviously, any kind of Rotex sander will do. And we're just going to start with a 120 grit. Now, this is a nice coarse sandpaper, and it's quickly going to get the glue off of the worktop. As you can see here, I mean, one round of it and it already looks pretty good. So now you've done your 120 grit, it's important to remember to step up in stages. So you're not going to go 120 straight to your 500. We're going to gradually smoothing it out to get a perfectly flat, seamless joint. So as you can see there, we've just used a 180 grit. So we'll step that up again, maybe like a 240, 260, around that area. And like I say, just keep gradually going to a 500. Now I'm just going to step behind the camera for a moment, just so you can pay attention to the process of the sanding. One thing that is important when it comes to sanding the surface is to make sure that you sand it evenly throughout. Now obviously if you focus on the joint and you don't focus on the rest of the material, then that could lead to a dip in the surface. As you can see there, the final polish, I mentioned in my last video that the 500 grit would always be a wet polish. So a little bit of water on the top and just evenly sand it out. And there you have it. So that is how to bond a solid surface joint. Now, I've got the finished article here. So the joint is roughly in line with my finger there. And as you can see, there is no visible line, which is the best benefit of solid surface, in my opinion. So if you like the video, don't forget, give it a share, give it a like, and also don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.